Well, ladies and gents, this is a Subaru SVX. It's not my Subaru SVX, no. It is Donut Media's Subaru SVX.
Well, actually, it's Justin's, but he works for Donut Media.
I really thought I'd have a Donut Media project car in my shop. But here we are. Gotta say, this car is pretty freaking rad. The SVX was Subaru's attempt at like a luxury coupe. It came with the flat 6, but it only ever came with an automatic transmission. Well, Justin, the owner of this car, has already fixed that. He swapped a 6-speed manual transmission out of a Subaru WRX. And well, I think that was the last thing he did. And I think that was like 10 years ago. As you can tell, the car's been sitting outside for quite a bit. It's, you know, kind of clapped out, but not that bad. I mean, I drove it in here for heck's sake. And it's at least not rusty. What is it doing in my shop, you may ask? Well, ladies and gents, I'm gonna be doing some fabricating on this thing. See, Donut Media wants to do one of the craziest things I've ever heard of with this car. They wanna drive this thing from North Carolina all the way to California, only off-road. It's something over 5,000 miles. It's gonna take weeks to get there because you gotta imagine they're gonna average a pretty slow speed. And they're doing it in a Subaru SVX that hasn't driven regularly in years. That's pretty crazy. Now, by the time this video comes out, they will have already posted their video. So if you wanna see the final results, see the trip, you can head over to Donut Media. But that's not where we are as I film this. I have to get this thing ready to take the abuse of 5,000 miles of off-road. Now, I'm not doing anything mechanical, thankfully. I'm not responsible for any of that. I have to fabricate some off-road bumpers, among other things. Doing a tube front bumper, tube rear bumper, rock sliders, an exo cage to mount the roof rack, and the spare tires. And I have to do all of that in 9 days.
Let's just start digging in. It's interesting. The unfortunate part about this, it's got a long nose, and then the core support for the radiator sticks out like a freaking plow. Justin does not want me to cut that. I don't really want to have to cut it either, because that'll be a lot of work to kind of remount the radiator and stuff. So we have to go around it, which means approach angle, you know, not gonna be the greatest on this thing, but that's okay. So the idea is we're gonna harvest the factory like little mounts off of the crash support, because they go inside the frame rail, which is kind of funky, but we'll use those to support it. So I got those on there, very nice. Next up is to go ahead and bend our main tube and then weld it to those. So we got this main front bar bent up, and watch this. That's sick. So I got that front bar tacked in, looking pretty good. The next thing I'm gonna do is tie this bar down underneath the car, and you can kind of see the tow hook right there. I'm gonna tie it into that because that's also connected to a strong part on the frame. And then winch is gonna come up here in the middle, and maybe just some cool bars to make it a little bit, you know, a little bit extra. Maybe a little gusset plate on top too, who knows. I got most of the bars done on this front bumper. Got the two going down to the second mount and protecting the, you know, the under stuff. Got the parallel second bar on the bottom. Got some connecting bars and another bar going through the middle there. The only bar left we have to do is this little front hoop that's gonna go over the winch. So we're gonna mount the winch and do that. And then this bumper is pretty much done. It's gonna get some sheet metal and some dimple dies and some cool stuff like that, but we're gonna do that later. Also over here, I'm gonna cut these bars shorter because obviously when this thing's got some big off-road tires, you know, this thing doesn't have to be flush with the body. We'd rather have it farther forward so there's plenty of clearance. Yeah, let's continue. So we got the winch on there. I don't know what the slider thing is for the cable called, but we got that on there. We got the sides supported with that little bracket and then the bottom supported with a tube. I think that's gonna be plenty strong for this vehicle. So with that being said, the front bumper is structurally done. We'll get some sheet metal on it later. For now, we're gonna move to the rear. So we got that removed and I went ahead and welded the plates on the the parts that actually bolt into the frame. This rear bumper is going to be simpler. It's just going to be two parallel bars connected with some vertical bars. So kind of like a little ladder that curves around the back of the vehicle. So we got this rear bumper done. It's just the two parallel bars as I was saying, but I did also add a hitch receiver because I figured, you know, going across the country might be nice to have a hitch, whether you want to put a recovery point there or maybe like a luggage rack or really anything, you can put it there now. Now I am going to cut the sides of this bumper to kind of match the body line and also not, you know, be uneven. But since time is of the essence, I'm not gonna do that because we're gonna take the bumper off anyway to put it back to stock. So we'll do that then. So the next step is to go ahead and mount this roof rack. Well, real quick, I'd like to take a moment to thank this video sponsor, Redtiger, and their F17 Elite Smart Dash Cam. Now in a few previous videos, I have talked about a different dash cam, the Wolfbox dash cam, which is a rear view mirror screen mounted dash cam. Wolfbox and Redtiger are the same company, so don't think I'm sleazing around with different dash cam companies, all right? But the Redtiger is different than the Wolfbox because it's not the big old screen that takes over your rear view mirror. So for anyone who didn't like that, this is your solution. Now the F17 Elite is a 3-channel HD dash cam. So it's got a front-facing camera, an interior-facing camera, and a rear-facing camera. The front camera is full 4K, the rear camera is 2.5K, and the interior cabin-facing camera is 1080p. With that being said, all of the cameras are crystal clear. The front and rear camera use Sony Starvis 2 sensors. They've got very good dynamic range and very good exposure balance, so even if you're going through shaded, sunny spots, whatever, it always looks good. One of the things that makes this dash cam very special is that it is the world's first full-night color dash cam with an in-cabin view. It looks very good at night. Now the install of this thing is very simple. The main unit gets double-sided taped onto your front windshield. You then have to route your wires for your rear camera and the power to the main unit. That's pretty easy because they give you a nice little pry tool. You kind of just shimmy the wires along your headliner. You then have to continue to run your rear wire, double-sided tape the rear camera to the rear windshield, plug it in, and voila. Let's go. The dash cam turns on when you turn on your ignition and immediately starts recording. Now the way it works is it's constantly recording in short loops. All those recordings are stored on the dash cam. If anything happens, you can go back through the footage, download the files that you need.
Gotcha.
Speaking of fine, in order to get footage off of it, you just turn on the Wi-Fi on the dash cam, connect to it with Redtiger's mobile app. And the mobile app's really cool. It shows like speed, like the actual where you went on that loop and all sorts of stuff. If you guys are interested in getting a F17 Elite dash cam, I'll have a link in the description and up there in the cards above. And there will be a discount code in the description and in the comments as well. So check it out. And thank you to Redtiger for sponsoring this video. We are just going to be welding it to the roof. So that makes it a little bit easier for me. Now the one thing we do have to do is raise it so it clears the sunroof, because sunroof still works. So you wanna, we wanna keep clearance for that, because on a 5,000 mile journey off-road, having a working sunroof might be nice. So I'm gonna kind of throw it up there on some wood blocks and, get an idea of what we're working with. It's definitely unfortunate the sunroof opens like this and we have to raise the roof rack because it looks, a little funky. But I think once we have all the other stuff around it, I think it'll look fine, especially once it's like loaded with gear and stuff. So I'm gonna go ahead and start working. It's just gonna be kind of tubes coming off this main tube to a little plate that gets welded to the roof. I made these little stands, so we're gonna replace my bending dies with the stands, kind of center the roof rack, and then mark where on the roof you have to grind. Got that marked. I am gonna notch these tubes a little better so there's not that big gap, and that will lower it a little bit more just so it's perfectly clearing the sunroof. Let's make sure it closes as is though. Tacked on there, so that's nice. Now we can start with the tire rack. So for our spare tire carrier, for one, they want to have 2 spare tires because the wheels that they are using are directional. So on one side, those blades spin one way, on the other side, they spin the other way. So you want 1 spare for each side essentially. So we have to fit 2 spare tires, and they also want all their interior space. So what I'm gonna be doing is mounting both the tires kind of flat over the windshield. You'll see when I get the tires back from the tire shop, but pretty much what it's gonna be is just like a bar that connects to each quarter panel, just gets welded to the quarter panel, and then there'll be 2 bars coming off that bar up to the roof rack, and then on those 2 bars, there will be a plate with some studs where you can just put the spare wheel on and bolt it down. Should be pretty simple. We're gonna be using 1-inch tube for this, so it'll be a little bit smaller and lighter. I've discovered this car is covered in baby praying mantises. Look at it, it's so adorable. I misplaced my tape measure somewhere and I cannot for the life of me find it. I literally have been looking for this thing for 30 minutes. This is so frustrating because I don't have time to be looking for my tape measure. So we made quite a bit of progress back here. I honestly don't remember the last time I updated you guys, but the tire rack for the spare tires is completely done. I'm very happy with it. Pretty much it's just this bar right here, goes across the windshield that welds to the metal underneath this plastic trim. And then that bar also goes and connects up to the roof rack. And it's got a crossbar and some cool braces. It's nice and strong. Now keep in mind, I have to cut this entire thing off before I bring it to donut, which, yeah, that stinks, but that's all right. Now there's only one more thing, one major thing we have to build before we finish all like the small details, do the gussets and all that kind of stuff. And that is some rock sliders. Unfortunately, building rock sliders for a unibody car is kind of hard because, well, there's no like big, box frame. But we do have this little kind of mini frame here. And so what the plan is we're gonna reinforce that, pretty much weld some U tubing and like L tubing onto that to extend it and reinforce it. And then we'll have tubes coming off that. And then the rock slider will be kind of flush with a pinch weld. And I mean, that will be pretty much that. Pretty much we just want to be able to essentially lift the car with the rock sliders. I'm not an off-roader, so I don't necessarily know exactly the point of rock sliders. I mean, if you're rock crawling, sure. But like, I mean, I don't know. They look cool. I'm gonna have to grind all this paint off. It's gonna be a beat. Frame rails are nice and cleaned up on both sides. Oh yeah, look at that. Oh yeah, look at this Milwaukee light, dang. So now we are gonna go ahead and start modifying these L brackets, or L bar angle iron. There we go, that's what it's called, angle iron, to fit. So that's just kind of roughly placed up there, but it's fitting good. I had to notch it a couple times and bend it to fit the curvature of the frame. But we're pretty much ready to go. I gotta get some more clamps because all my clamps are missing their rubber things and this thing just keeps sliding down. So I'm gonna go to the store, get some more clamps. Before I do that, I'm gonna go ahead and paint everything that we won't be able to paint from the outside with weld through primer because we don't want this thing to rust. This is actually a very clean SVX. So we're gonna paint it all with weld through primer. And we'll eventually seal it up and use cavity wax and stuff as well, but for now, some weld through primer. Well, after quite a lot of welding and grinding, we got our frame rail supports in there. And I'm actually really happy with how they turned out. They look legit. Kind of looks like this thing's got a real box frame now, which that was exactly the goal. Now, if you're wondering like, okay, why did we do this? Because look, I mean, we added a good 1.5 inches, or we removed 1.5 inches of ground clearance. But two things. For one, the exhaust was low. So now this thing, I mean, it's about even with the exhaust, but it is, it will cover and protect the exhaust more. And then secondly, this is solid. It's not gonna dent or bend if you hit a rock with it. Whereas the factory frame rail, if you get beached on a rock, that thing's crunching and really gonna get you stuck. This, ideally, lets you slide over the rock, hence the name rock slider. Obviously, this is not the full rock slider. Now we just have to protect this part. And we'll see, we might build some sort of skid plate or something off of these frame rails to protect the middle of the car. And now that would be really easy to do. Same thing with like the gas tank. Like we can build off this. This is the whole point, just to be able to build off of it, and it's very solid. So now we're gonna drop it down and start building sliders. First thing I'm gonna do is actually cut these plastic side skirts flush with a pinch weld. So see how it kind of tilts down? We wanna get rid of that. Got the side skirt nice and flush. Got it on some jack stands on our frame support. So now we can start bending some tubes. So I'm gonna make another one of these now. Both rock sliders are just gonna be symmetrical. I mean, these are very simple rock sliders, as you can see. And then I will go ahead and mount both of them to the car. So we got both the rock sliders tacked in. Now the thing is that those block the pinch welds. Now if we want to lift it off the jack stands, we have to lift it on the rock sliders. So we're about to see if they can support the weight of the car just tacked in. They should, because essentially they're being pressed up against the body. So, you know, it's not like they're actually supporting the weight. Seems like it's off the ground now. So at this point, all the major stuff is built. We got the front bumper, the rear bumper, roof rack, tire rack, rock sliders. Now we actually have to finish everything because it's just kind of tacked together, doesn't look perfect. So we're gonna break out the plasma cutter, break out the dimple die, and make this stuff look awesome. This is 1/8" steel, by the way. Not the thickest thing in the world, but like, really plenty strong. So we got that new winch mount situated right in the center and lower part of the bumper, looking sick. And we got the skid plate on here. But now what we're gonna go and do is finish this front bumper. So in between all of these bars over here, we're gonna add just like 20 gauge sheet metal with some dimple dies in it to make it look cool. Over on the sides, I cut out just the straight bar and added a curve. We're gonna cut the top bar flush with that and cap it off, weld it all up, grind it down so it kind of just looks like, you know, it's one piece there. Looks much better than just 2 points. Pretty much I'm just gonna have to modify these brackets right here and make it so that top hole isn't used because it can't clear this core support with that top hole there. But that's all right, not a big deal. Something about just, you know, making sure there's no holes and just grinding it down makes it look so much better. I mean, look at that, I love it. So now I'm gonna throw it back into the car and we can do the gusset plates. I think this thing's looking pretty cool, and it doesn't even have any of the actual like off-road stuff on it yet. It's just a stock SVX with bumpers. So man, am I excited to see this thing with the tires, the lights, the livery. Fortunately, you or me are not gonna see it. You're gonna have to wait, or just you can just go watch Donut's video. So you actually are gonna see it. I'm not gonna see it. Not for a while. I love these gusset plates. They're just kind of lightly tacked in. I'll add more tack so they're not rattly later at the shoot, but it looks really good. I'm very happy with it. So now we're gonna add those gusset plates to the rock sliders, to the roof rack, and then do the same kind of curve and gusset plates on the rear bumper. And then a snorkel, and then we're done. Nice. With that, the rear bumper is done. Oh God, I almost just tripped. Got the curve and the end all capped up, looking much nicer. And then I also braced this, kind of triangulated it, so it has a little bit more force, a little bit more strength is what I meant. So now we're gonna throw this back on and then do the gusset plates on this. And there's that rear bumper complete. And that's, really the entire system. But there's one major thing it's missing. Come over here, we grab this snorkel. The cool thing about this car, it's like it's built from the factory to have a snorkel. The factory air box has a pass-through that goes right there. So we're gonna build out of that, come up along the fender, up the A-pillar, or the lack thereof. Gonna have that little pre-filter up there. And to realize how long this dang car is, the front of the car is, when you make a snorkel for it, you're not even done, and it's like an exhaust, bro. This is hilarious. But went along nicely. Put that in there. Boom. Car's pretty much done. I'm happy I had time to do everything I wanted. I would have loved probably 2 more weeks to get everything perfect and probably do a different design that's a little bit more intricate, but this is gonna be good. It's gonna protect the car, it's gonna look cool. I'm excited. Now, unfortunately, I have to take everything off because Donut wants the car to show up looking stock, which totally makes sense. They want to actually show the build. So we have to take all the bumpers off. We gotta cut the rack off. We gotta cut the rock sliders off, and then put the factory bumpers back on. And then what we're also gonna do is fully weld up this snorkel, which I think is unfortunately gonna take a while because it's freaking massive. After 2 weeks of a lot of hard work, I think we are done. SVX is back looking stock. Doesn't even look like I ever did anything to it. Over here, we have all of our metal. Doesn't look like a whole lot, but this is 80 feet worth of metal. So I bought 80 feet worth of DOM, and if we come over to the back, I'll show you what scraps we have. Currently welding up the snorkel, because I have to do that before bringing it there. I don't have a TIG welder there. But all the scraps I have is this and that. So I very nearly used every bit of metal that I purchased, which is crazy. And in comparison, I have about 100 feet worth of DOM in the drift truck. All the tube chassis, the cage, everything. And that took me months. So the fact that I only did, 20 feet less in 2 weeks, I'm pretty happy with that. I worked my ass off. Obviously, like the bash bars and stuff aren't as important. Like everything on the truck had to be measured and symmetric, so that probably took a lot of time. But look at this. Look at this, this is awesome. I want to give a huge thanks to a couple people. For one, Donut Media. Thank you, Donut Media, for trusting me, for being my first real customer. I mean, that's pretty cool to say. Donut Media is my first real customer. They entrusted me with this project, and I hope I did them proud. And then secondly, thank you to you guys. Appreciate all the support. I have no idea when this is gonna come out, but if you do want to see the car now 100% finished and see if it made the journey, you can check out Donut Media's YouTube channel. I'll have links in the description and up in the cards above. Lastly, guys, if you do want to support the channel a little extra, please check out Patreon. You can get early access to videos there and access to some exclusive content. Or you can check out emindustries.com where you can get merch, parts for your car, free CAD files, or submit a build if you want me to do a project on your car. For now, I'm gonna go ahead and load this thing up on the trailer. And this will be the first time I tow with the Tundra. So we'll see how it goes. And this thing's a heavy car. And I got a lot to put in the bed, so it was a great first test. Well, let's put it this way. I'm glad I got a truck. This is crazy. This is awesome. I've never owned my own truck, so like, being able to do that is sick. Now I gotta get this thing on there. And with that, I drove the SVX to North Carolina and helped for the first week of the Donut Media shoot. It was very cool to be part of a legitimate production, and seeing myself in a Donut Media video was pretty sweet. I mean, I even got a special thanks at the end of the series. Thank you, thank you, thank you. The SVX turned out perfect with the livery and all the additional parts that the guys put on, and the journey that they went on was intense. It was genuinely one of my favorite YouTube series I've ever watched, so make sure to check it out on their channel. And yet again, thank you to Justin and Donut Media for letting me be a part of this.